In the year 60 AD, the province of Britannia stood on the brink of its greatest uprising against Roman rule. The Iceni tribe, once allies of Rome, had been pushed beyond endurance. When their king Prasutagus died, leaving his kingdom jointly to his daughters and the Roman emperor, the Romans seized the opportunity to absorb the territory entirely. Queen Boudica was publicly flogged, her daughters violated, and Iceni nobles were stripped of their ancestral lands. This brutal injustice would ignite a firestorm of vengeance across the island. While the Roman governor Gaius Suetonius Paulinus was campaigning in distant Anglesey, destroying the Druid strongholds in the west, Boudica rallied the tribes. The Iceni were joined by the Trinovants and other British tribes who had suffered under Roman occupation. Together, they swept across the province like an unstoppable tide, burning the Roman settlements of Camulodunum, modern Colchester, Londinium, London, and Verulamium, St. Albans, to the ground. Tens of thousands of Romans and British collaborators perished in the flames. Now, on the plains of Britannia in modern-day Britain, a Roman army under the command of Gaius Suetonius Paulinus awaits patiently. Upon the plains, a massive horde of Britannic tribes is quickly descending on their position. News of the rebellion's devastation has reached Paulinus, and he knows this will be the decisive engagement that determines the fate of Roman Britannia. With a large Britannic army quickly appearing on the horizon, Paulinus has hastily amassed a force of approximately 10,000 Roman soldiers. His force includes his own Legio XIV Gemina, some vexellations, detachments, of the Legio XX Valeria Victrix, and whatever available auxiliaries and cavalry he could muster from the scattered garrisons. Many of his troops had marched for days from their campaign in Wales, exhausted but determined. Knowing full well his force is vastly outnumbered, perhaps by as many as 100,000 Britons or more, Paulinus has made a calculated decision that would prove to be the most crucial of the battle. He has stationed his army in a narrow defile, a passage surrounded by dense woods and thick foliage. This natural fortress protects his army's rear and flanks, negating the enemy's numerical superiority. The passage opens onto a plain where the enemy must approach, but its narrowness means they cannot bring their full weight to bear at once. Just over the horizon approaches a massive army of native Britannic tribesmen, their war cries echoing across the landscape. They are led by their Iceni warrior queen, Boudica, a tall, fierce woman with flowing red hair, whose very presence commands respect and inspires fury in equal measure. Queen Boudica, leading the Britons from the front atop her war chariot, is ever confident in her army's chances at victory. After all, her army outnumbers the Romans by at least 8 to 1, possibly more. The sheer size of her force seems to guarantee success. Behind her march warriors from numerous tribes, the Iceni, Trinovants, Catavellani, and others, all united by their hatred of Roman oppression and their thirst for vengeance. Although the Britons are gathered in considerable force, there is a critical weakness in their ranks. The Iceni tribe and other tribes had been systematically disarmed by the occupying Romans some years before Boudica's rebellion. It is believed they were poorly equipped in arms and armor in comparison to their Roman foe. Many carried makeshift weapons, agricultural tools turned into spears, old swords passed down through generations, shields of wood and hide rather than reinforced metal. They fought with courage and fury, but not with the standardized equipment of a professional army. Upon departing to give battle, the Britons had placed their supply wagons at the opposite end of the would-be battlefield, forming a great arc behind their position. From these wagons, their families, women, children, and elders could watch what they confidently expected to be an overwhelming victory, a final reckoning with their oppressors. The wagons were laden with supplies and plunder from the sacked cities, symbols of their successful rebellion thus far. Although not comprehensible at the moment, this seemingly innocuous act would inevitably turn out to be a disaster for the Britons. The wagons would form an impassable barrier behind their own army, cutting off any route of retreat. Roman confidence and strategy. Although heavily outnumbered, Roman general Paulinus is confident in his men's chances of overcoming the odds. He has fought barbarians across the empire and knows that numbers alone do not win battles. His confidence rests on several pillars. His men are more experienced. Many are veterans of campaigns in Germania, Gaul, and now Britannia. They have drilled relentlessly in formations and maneuvers until they can execute them flawlessly even in the chaos of battle. They are better trained in the Roman military system, which emphasizes unit cohesion over individual heroism. Each soldier knows his place in the formation and trusts the man beside him. They are better equipped in arms and armor. Each legionary wears a larica segmentata, segmented armor, or chain mail, carries a large rectangular scutum, shield, a gladius, short sword, for close combat, and a pilum, heavy javelin, for throwing. This standardized equipment is far superior to the varied and often improvised weapons of the Britons. Most critically, his soldiers fight as a disciplined unit, moving and striking as one organism, as opposed to his British foes who fight as individual warriors, brave but disorganized. But the most important factor that gives Paulinus his confidence is his masterful choice of battlefield terrain. As mentioned prior, the narrow defile protects the Romans from all side and rear attacks and is essential for the Roman style of battle. This removes Boudicca's numerical advantage by preventing her from flanking the Romans and essentially making it a head-on engagement where only the front ranks can fight at any given time. Paulinus's choice of terrain showcases him as a great tactical Roman general of his time, worthy of comparison with the legendary commanders of Rome's past. He has turned his weakness, inferior numbers, into irrelevance, and the enemy's strength, superior numbers, into a liability. The speeches, words before battle. As Boudicca's army closes in on the Romans, she seeks to motivate her soldiers with words of defiance and vengeance. The Roman historian Tacitus, who wrote of the battle roughly 50 years later, recorded Boudicca's speech to her followers. Though we cannot know her exact words, Tacitus presents her as speaking thus: "It is not as a woman descended from noble ancestry, but as one of the people, that I am avenging lost freedom, my scourged body, and the outraged chastity of my daughters. Roman lust has gone so far that not our very persons, nor even age or virginity, are left unpolluted. But heaven is on the side of righteous vengeance. A legion which dared to fight has perished. The rest are hiding themselves in their camp or are thinking anxiously of flight. They will not sustain even the din and the shout of so many thousands, much less our charge and our blows. If you weigh well the strength of the armies and the causes of the war, you will see that in this battle you must conquer or die. This is a woman's resolve. As for men, they may live and be slaves." Her words ignite a roar from the assembled tribes. They beat their weapons against their shields, creating a thunderous cacophony meant to terrify the enemy. Tacitus also wrote of Paulinus addressing his own soldiers before the engagement, presenting the pragmatic, calculating mindset of Roman military doctrine. Ignore the racket made by these barbaric savages. There are more women than men in their ranks. They are not soldiers. They are not even properly equipped. We have beaten them before, and when they see our weapons and feel our spirit, they will crack. Stick together. Throw your javelins, then push forward. Knock them down with your shields and finish them off with your swords. Forget about plunder. Just win here today and you will have everything. The Roman soldiers, standing in perfect formation, respond with a rhythmic clash of weapons on shields, a sound of iron discipline that contrasts sharply with the chaotic noise of the British horde. The battle opens with Britannic war chariots advancing toward the Roman lines, warriors hurling javelins and stones as they wheel and turn before the Roman position. The charioteers demonstrate impressive skill, but the disciplined Roman soldiers, with their heavy shields and armor, are effective at fending off any serious threat from the projectiles. The shields lock together in a protective wall, and the incoming missiles clatter harmlessly off the scutums or stick into the wood without penetrating. "Now you know what you can expect from these barbarians," Paulinus calls out calmly, his voice carrying across the Roman lines. The chariots withdraw after their ineffective skirmishing, and Boudicca, seeing that the Romans will not be drawn out from their advantageous position, orders forth her entire army in a full-scale assault. "They are a race of rabid bastards who will fight tooth and nail," shouts a centurion, preparing his men for the onslaught. "Rome is civilization," another responds. "Rome is order. Rome is power." The British horde surges forward like a human tsunami, screaming war cries, brandishing weapons, their faces painted for war. The earth trembles beneath thousands of running feet. Just as the Britons come within charging distance, roughly 20 to 30 paces, Paulinus gives the command. The Romans loose their pilums and javelins in coordinated volleys straight into the British ranks. The heavy iron-tipped projectiles punch through shields, armor, and flesh with devastating effect. The pilum is designed so that its soft iron shank bends on impact, making shields unusable and preventing the enemy from throwing the weapons back. The effect is immediate. Chaos and disarray ripple through the British front ranks. Men fall screaming, others stumble over the wounded, the momentum of the charge falters. Seizing the moment, the Romans shift formation. They form into wedge-shaped cuneous formations, resembling saw blades designed to cut through enemy lines. With shields locked and swords ready, they advance through the Britons with mechanical precision, cutting through them with brutal efficiency. The Romans in their cohesive and disciplined wedge formations continue to drive straight through the Britons as if they were some sort of ancient bulldozer. Each wedge acts as a spear point, splitting the British mass and allowing the following ranks to exploit the gaps. The gladius, short and deadly, is perfect for the close-quarters stabbing that ensues. The Romans fight shoulder to shoulder, each man protected by his neighbor's shield, advancing step by methodical step. The Britons' numerical advantage becomes completely and utterly obsolete. They cannot bring their full numbers to bear in the narrow space, and those who do engage the Roman wedges find themselves fighting a disciplined, armored enemy that gives no ground. Individual British warriors, no matter how brave, cannot stand against the coordinated killing machine of the Roman legion. The slaughter. At this point, the Roman war machine has gained unstoppable momentum. They slaughter tens of thousands of Britons, pushing forward relentlessly. The narrow battlefield becomes a killing ground, choked with bodies and slick with blood. The Britons, being pushed back as far as their wagon caravan, begin to panic. They realize too late the trap they have created for themselves. The wagons, which were to have been viewing platforms for a glorious victory, now block any possibility of retreat. Warriors press against their own families, creating a horrific crush of humanity. They begin fleeing in terror, but at this point they are too congested and tightly packed together, making them easy targets for the Roman soldiers who are showing no mercy. The Romans have been taught that in battle against barbarians, mercy is weakness that invites future rebellion. Their orders are clear: total annihilation. The Roman cavalry, having protected the flanks during the initial engagement, now extends their lances and attacks the Britons from the sides as the Roman infantry continues their implacable advance. The Britons are caught in a vice with no escape: the massacre. It is reported by Tacitus that the Romans killed not only the warriors but also the women, children, and even pack animals trapped among the wagons. The rage of the Roman soldiers, who had seen their settlements burned and their comrades massacred, finds full expression. The battlefield becomes a scene of total annihilation. Tacitus says that according to one estimate, some 80,000 Britons were slain on the battlefield compared to only 400 Romans killed and a somewhat larger number wounded. While this figure may be exaggerated, ancient historians often inflated numbers. There is no doubt that the British casualties were catastrophic while Roman losses were remarkably light. Boudicca, witnessing the complete massacre of her people and the destruction of her rebellion, is said by Tacitus to have fled the battlefield. After a certain period of time running from the Romans, unable to bear the weight of her failure and the fate that awaited her if captured, she eventually poisoned herself. Other historians, such as Cassius Dio, claimed she fell ill and died of natural causes. The truth of her end remains shrouded in legend, but her rebellion died with her on that blood-soaked field. This overwhelming victory by the Romans was achieved due to their advantage in armor, weapons, discipline, tactical positioning, and having a great tactical commander in General Gaius Suetonius Paulinus. All of these factors combined gave them a decisive edge in their battle against the numerically superior but poorly equipped and disorganized Britons. The battle demonstrated several timeless principles of warfare. Terrain can overcome numbers, discipline defeats fury, and a well-equipped professional army will usually triumph over a larger but poorly armed irregular force. The Battle of Watling Street marks one of, if not the greatest, victories in Roman history. To overcome such overwhelming odds and not only win but suffer such minimal losses was a strategic and tactical marvel in the ancient world. It would be studied by military commanders for centuries to come as an example of how superior training, equipment, leadership, and positioning could triumph over seemingly impossible odds. The rebellion was crushed completely. Paulinus conducted brutal reprisals across the province, but eventually, calmer heads in Rome prevailed. A new governor was sent with instructions to restore peace through more moderate policies. Britannia would remain under Roman control for more than 3 centuries, but the memory of Boudicca, the warrior queen who nearly drove Rome from Britain, would never be forgotten.